mainstream media is guilty of much wrongdoing, but dividing the masses with this misrepresentation of reality is the media's greatest act of malfeasance. The mainstream media portrays the black vote as a monolith, as if somehow the black vote is singular in nature. The present-day narrative within mainstream culture is that blacks are second-class citizens, dependent on their democratic saviors for assistance. Although far from reality, perception is real, and this narrative is a disgrace to the agency of black Americans and needs to be supplemented with a more balanced perspective. In this episode, I'd like to explain the history of the black vote, where it stands presently, and where it may be heading for the future. If you'd like to hear more, stay tuned for this episode of It is no secret that our country is a house divided. Interestingly enough, these divisions are also present with individual communities and ethnic groups as well. Divisions in the black community on identity and politics are rampant and very rarely discussed in a calm and rational manner. Thus, much is misrepresented, and the proliferation of myths of what it means to be black and who blacks should support are often determined by the misrepresentations of fact. Furthermore, the black American narrative has been manipulated to control our method of thinking and has led to the belief that all blacks are a monolithic population who think and behave in the same manner. Although this fact has been proven wrong time and time again, the mainstream culture continues to engrave it in our heads. I want you to understand, I'm not trying to tell you what you ought to believe. My aim is to provide information for you to decide what you want to believe. To do this, I must speak on topics that may make some uncomfortable. But is this not what personal growth is all about? Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable so you have new experiences and grow into a better person? With that being said, let's move on with today's episode and America's history regarding the black vote. It nearly took 100 years from the country's inception for blacks to gain the right to vote, with the passage of the 13th Amendment in 1864. Following the passage of the 13th Amendment, many southern states run by Democrats enacted black codes. These black codes regulated the actions and behaviors of black citizens. Republicans in Congress were outraged and proposed that a civil rights bill be passed in 1866. Andrew Johnson, a Democrat, believed in state rights and actually vetoed this piece of legislation. A Republican-controlled Congress out-vetoed the president's veto, and for the first time in American history, Congress outweighed the president's veto to enact law. Although blacks won the right to vote, it was an uphill battle for them to actually exercise these rights. Nevertheless, from 1867 to 1877, America elected a total of 22 black men to serve in the United States Congress, 2 of which were actually senators. An interesting fact to know is that the first black senator in America was actually a Republican from Mississippi. His name was Hiram Rhodes Revels. For the most part, blacks were generally aligned with the Republican Party during the early phases of America's founding. Republicans were seen as the champions of the blacks, with Abraham Lincoln leading the charge in freeing the slaves. As late as the mid-1930s, Republicans nationwide can be seen courting the black vote and standing behind policies that assisted the black community. For instance, Illinois' 1st Congressional District is a strong testimony of this fact. Blacks were extremely loyal to the Republican machine that dominated Chicago politics in that era. Blacks did not cross party lines until the 1930s, when it became evident that President Herbert Hoover's policies during the Great Depression were hindering the economy from improving. Blacks, being hit harder than any other group, felt ignored and became wary of the Republican machine that they pledged loyalty to. In 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt's promise of a New Deal attracted many black voters to the Democratic Party. After this, the Democrats gained the majority of the black vote, with only 26% of the black Americans remaining Republican. This loyalty to the Democratic Party remained strong and strengthened after Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1965, further protecting black rights. The number of eligible black voters who were registered increased from 23 to 61%, and the black vote has been Democratic ever since. with 80% of blacks voting for Hillary Clinton in the 2016 presidential election. Many blacks are starting to feel ignored as time and time again, politicians offer solutions to the problems only to forget the black community once elected to office. This fact might be behind why 30% of African Americans self-identify as independent. President Trump only won 8% of the black vote in 2016. However, many blacks are starting to realize their values are inherently conservative and are becoming independent thinkers and questioning their loyalty to the Democratic Party. Many black conservatives are also coming out of the closet in support of President Trump. With President Trump's campaign stepping up black outreach, black political leanings may be getting another shift in 2020 and beyond. Depending on how this next election turns out, both parties may have to re-strategize how they court the black vote. And in my opinion, Democrats have more to lose if they drop the ball on the black community. With all that being said, I think it's time for the mainstream media, the two major parties, and Americans alike to understand that black voters are a diverse group with many different preferences. So I encourage you to read, learn, explore, and question your beliefs to discover what you actually believe, as you might find you disagreed with what you thought you believed. Thank you for watching, and remember to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Until next time, free the voters.